Okay, so in this video we are going to be covering texturing. So we're going to begin our texturing process by starting with our wall. So over here is our wall, and we're going to start with our piece in the front. This is just like the main piece of the wall. Grab out my tablet. Surprisingly, we won't actually be painting a lot of textures. So if we go tab into edit mode, split this window across, change it to a UV image editor, very important. And what we can do is we can go Smart UV Project, and let's turn up that area weight to 1 and click OK. And we'll get something like this. Let's just make sure I've got my key status display on. So that one there is, once again, Smart UV Project. And you've got angle limit, that's angle that it automatically marks the seams by. And area weight, sorry, I'm losing my voice. Alright, so area weight is basically trying to keep the regions together, so less seams and stuff like that. Now, I find that this one over here, I can just separate that out by selection by pressing P, and now it's all the way over there by itself, and we can just get rid of that UV map, we don't need it. Split is fine, and that way we have more room for texture on this one here. As you can see, this one here now has that much more texture space, and because that one's so far away, we won't even bother texturing it. Alright, so let's just, once again, Smart UV Project, area weight of 1, click OK, and then select everything with Control A to average out the scale, make sure everything's in scale with your actual scene, and then press Control P to pack it in. You can press Control P a couple of times, and sometimes it gets a little better. Alright, so to view this, if we go New, UV Test Grid, and I'm just going to call this one here UV Test, and we click OK, we can now turn on Textured Solid under Shading, make sure that's on GLSL. GLSL will use the whatever's in the UV image editor. So we turn that on, and we can have a look at our UVs and just take a quick look over and make sure everything is fine. I can see that there's normal the wrong way, so I can hit Control N to recalculate those. And that is mostly fine. As you can see, there's a few areas which we could manually UV and it would look better. Manual UVs are always going to be better than doing the UVs automatically, simply for the fact that doing UVs manually will get a lot more detail in there, will be a lot better constructed for use in software such as Photoshop, and yeah, stuff like that. I'm just going to get a drink of water. Alright, so with that one there done, what we need to do is we need to create an ambient occlusion pass for this object. So I'm going to go Image, New Image, just call this one here Wall Main Grunge, because it's going to be our grunge map. 1K is perfectly fine, and black is fine. You can set this up to white. We're going to make a AO map over it, so that color doesn't matter anyway. Oops. So yeah, just kind of like a force habit to make it white. So let's go Wall Main Grunge. Okay, we get this map here. Now if we jump over to the modify, or our render tab over here, the one that looks like a little camera, scroll all the way down to the bottom, we see a area called Bake. Now this allows us to bake textures directly into an image. So if we use the ambient occlusion pass, and check normalized, that will allow us to bake directly onto this. So you've also got options such as margin. Now margin will basically just extend the area, so it sort of just like makes like a buffer around them. Margin of 2 will be perfectly fine. Now you've got the split method as well. Now split method is if you have really long triangles, or really long quads I should say, it will split them and it will try and determine which way to split. And sometimes it doesn't do it perfectly, so you might want to change that split to whichever one you want. Okay, so let's hit bake. That'll just take a second to go through and create our ambient occlusion map. And there we have it. That is a ambient occlusion map. Now if we just press numpad/ to go into isolated view, we can quickly come around and make sure everything is in order. So make sure all is well, there's no spots that look out of place, and that looks fine. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go image, save as image, go up one into textures. I've created a folder called maps, and I'm going to call this one here wall main grunge. So what we can do now is we can open up Adobe Photoshop, and I'll just pull that over for you. Alright, so I'm using Photoshop CS6 by the way. You can do this in any Photoshop. You can even use GIMP if you want. GIMP will do this perfectly fine. All we want to do is just brighten it up a little, and I'm also going to go filter, blur, smart blur, and what that does is it gets rid of that noise and makes it look nice. Quality, set the quality to high, of course, and yeah. Just play around those settings, get something you like, and sort of like, yeah, kind of blends these around a little and keeps those edges nice and sharp. Okay, and that's the smart blur done. So we can also throw a curves layer on this, and sometimes you can go auto and it will calculate stuff for you quite well. Maybe a little brighter. We still want those shadows, but just not as much. I think there's also a threshold. Yeah, there we go, threshold. I think we can do a threshold. Now the threshold, by the way, is a method of just blending out our gradients and stuff, so we can choose how much we want, and then we can blur that, and then we can use that one there to cut away at our main one. So for example, if we wanted these to be much shorter, we'd use a threshold value to determine the level of brightness. So yeah, using that, it softens it up a lot, keeps our dark bits really dark, but it also brightens it up significantly for us. The one on the left, that's an overall brightness. It's not like this. You're probably thinking this is really bright, but bear in mind we are actually going to be painting over this at some point as well. Okay, so if I just go Control-Shift-E, select that one, we can go save this. Just save directly over the other one, that's fine. And if we go image, reload image, you can see it ends up looking like that. And it's still got those shadows, those dark patches and stuff, but it's not quite so harsh. It's not doesn't look so dirty as such. Of course, we want this to look dirty, but we want to paint the dirt. So yeah, that is our ambient occlusion pass of that wall main. Okay, so this one here, tab into edit mode, and something I've noticed is this here, I've actually got double ups. Be careful of that. I'm not quite sure why I had a double up there. I'm just going to delete that. And just go Control N, T, make normals face the right way. And yeah, other than that, I think the normals are fine. We'll soon see anyways. I did bake out an ambient occlusion pass of this one earlier, just to see how it would look, and it ended up really weird, so I'm actually going to show you. We go to Image, New Image, 1K is fine, and we'll call this one here Wall Main Pieces. Hit bake. Actually, there's no UV map. We've got to create a UV map first. What am I doing? Smart UV project. Area weight of 1. Oops. And I'll create one of these. Control A, Control P to take it in. And as you can see, this is probably horrible to paint on a Photoshop. Just to point that out. But it is very good. One other thing I might do is see this piece up here. We've got this piece, we've got this one. Oh, I can't even grab it. That one. And I don't even know where my pieces have gone now. Invisible. Okay, anyways, ignoring that. What we want to do is we want to join this one onto this one. So if I uncheck texture solid so I can see them. Put that Control J, and now we don't have to have a separate map for that one up there. U, Smart UV Project. Create that. And notice it's kind of splitting up a lot in here, so that's where we use that area weight. Help keep things a little more consistent. Yeah, so something like that. Hit bake. We'll see where this takes us. Alright, so there is our texture bake. Looking through, I can see we've got the problem again already. What we've got is we've got these little squares that just appear. I'm not actually sure why they appear, how to fix them. All I know is I just paint them over in Photoshop. It seems to be the easiest method. Because yeah, sometimes things just don't work. So texture's solid, tab out of edit mode, make sure this is all looking fine, apart from those squares. Okay, you can see there's quite a few of them. Yeah, that's fine. Notice things like this, where this one here, the normals are facing outwards, not inwards. You can just select these, Control E, Control L, Control N, press T, and go. Flip them around the other way, and then they're facing the right way. But notice they're not actually double-sided. That is not much of an issue. I'm just going to flip them around that way. It's probably where we're most going to see them, so that's fine like that. When we go into the game, they're actually going to be double-sided. They're all going to be double-sided unless we come across to this object data panel and check, actually not object, I don't remember where it is. Yeah, there it is. Object data. Double-sided. We uncheck that, and that will sort them out in the game engine. But when we're just using the texture solid in GLSL, this one here will not work with double-sided unless you import image plane. Then for some reason it works. I have no idea why. But yeah, that's the little bits and pieces of Blender. So if we just grab this one, image, save as image, just go all main pieces grunge, save it there, bring back up Photoshop, file, open, you open up that new one, like so, and zoom, just go, grab the brush, and all we're doing is we're just painting over. Doesn't have to be perfect, it can be a little splotchy, that is perfectly fine. Go for that one. Even if those ambient occlusion pieces are supposed to be there, it's not going to matter. Alright, here. So just looking for more little squares. I know there's quite a few of them. Here's another one. It's like hunting for little squares. Yeah, this stuff looks horrible in here, so I'm just going to quickly blend through all this. I'm sure that was supposed to be a shadow of some sort, but yeah, it's not how ambient occlusion is supposed to look. So yeah, we go like that. Another one down. Alright, I'm almost done. Notice I'm going a little bit onto the other ones around it. That doesn't matter, by the way. Unless your seams are really visible and you don't paint over them well when we do our grunge texturing, it's not going to be noticeable. Let's just zoom out. Make sure we've got all these. And yeah, that looks fine and dandy. So let's go filter, blur, smart blur. Oh, it's already up the top, smart blur. Just use settings from last time. Let's go to curves, auto, see what that does, and just like exaggerate it. Something a little like this. So what we do now, Control Shift E, Control S to save it. Move over into here, image, reload, and boom, there we go. So that's looking much nicer. You notice we've got this random ass stuff down there. It's kind of picking up ambient occlusion from the ground, which kind of thinks it's intersecting it there, which is weird, but hey, it's not that much of an issue. Okay, so that is those two done with ambient occlusion. So what we're going to do now is I'm actually going to go and do something more interesting. We're going to start texturing these. So I don't even, I need that kind of small, like that size. Alright, so for this I'm going to create a new material. I'm going to call this one here, all main. Just remove specularity down really low now. I'm going to turn off textured solid. We're going to go into textured viewport instead, which is much better. Shift A, add in a lamp, a Hema lamp. And notice only like some things. All we do is we move it, Control Z, and hey, that works. So yeah, position of these doesn't matter. It's just, you know, the angle and stuff that does things. We'll actually be using these in lighting later. That comes in a later tutorial though. So with this one, create a new texture. This one here is going to be called texture. I'll call this one here, create this image or movie. And for this, we are going to use a tiled texture, which we can open. Let's go texturing out to textures. Go into my resources. You won't have these, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a concrete texture, just like a tiled one. All of these textures are available on CG Textures, the ones I'll be using. So that's one of these, might look cool, like that. It's going to load it up and look really weird until we come down to mapping, change coordinates to UV, and we get something that looks like that. Now you're probably thinking this looks absolutely horrible, but it won't for very long. It will eventually look quite nice. But what we're going to do is we have to create a new texture. So I call this one here wall main, actually. Wall main texture. I'll probably call that concrete texture actually. So we'll be using that on a couple of objects. This next one, we're going to be calling this grunge, wall main grunge. Grunge, that's going to be an image or movie. It's going to be set to our wall main grunge, like so. Coordinates will be UV. Method is going to be, blend mode is going to be multiply. And we'll change this one here to multiply as well. So we get something like this. So we can now come over to our object data panel, change that from UV map to default. And what we're going to do is we are going to add in a new UV map, and we're going to call this one here texture. So if we go over to our texture panel, we'll make sure that our texture is using the texture UV map, and our wall grunge is using our default map. What that allows us to do is have multiple UV maps, so we can scale this out and make it really detailed. I will eventually, by the way, when I decide on which texture I'm using, I will have these, I'll have a much smaller texture. I think that's like a 4K texture we've got. We probably want it to be about a 512, 512 by 512, not 512K, that would be massive. Yeah, so we want it to be a really small texture so that it works in game engines. Yeah, we get sort of this stuff happening on the wall. We can then further that by going to our texture. Just minimize these ones we don't need. Don't need mapping anymore. There's a few options in here, by the way, where we can adjust how the mapping works, cropping and all that. We're going to be going into that in like a later series sometime. So come down to normal, and we'll go to normal value of 1 will do for now. We'll adjust that soon. Best quality, And yeah, that's looking nice. Doesn't look very close to what we're themed though, so come over to our material settings. We can actually change around. So change the intensity 1. We can change the color to be whatever we want. Now this is the equivalent of vertex colors. This isn't actually vertex colors, by the way. Vertex colors are over here, down in this area. Vertex colors allows us to color each face effectively a different color, whereas this is a general diffuse color. So Lambert is probably the one we want. We definitely want Lambert. Now you can come in here, and if we had a ramp, for example, this is just for example purposes, I probably won't be using this. We can drag that alpha set to 1. So now these are the same. Perhaps this kind of color. Some kind of brown there. And if we change the other one to the same color, but darker, like this, we can change the input over to something else like normal, and we get this funky looking effect going on. So just to demonstrate this a lot more, I'm going to bring these quite close together, and you can see how that works. Now obviously this isn't going to work for a wall like this, but this works really well for glossy objects to make it look like they're shiny when they're really not. So obviously this is not reflecting anything, it just looks like it is. Also got a few different inputs here, different blend modes that we can use. We can go energy, good one. Energy is sort of like based on the light, I believe. If I select this, rotate, yeah, there we go. So that's based on the light. So obviously we'd flip these around to make it look a little more effective. Like that, maybe change that over to a ease or a beast line. Yeah, beast line looks good. And yeah, you see we get these darker patches on the bottom side. And yeah, that's kind of what we end up with. So that's just a few tips for you if you want to use ramps. I may use ramps, but yeah, most of the time I tend to just use textures. But yeah, let's uncheck that, make that a little darker, bring up our reference. You can actually come in and we find the wall. So there. Find a patch that's illuminated, like this. You can grab that, you can just sample that. Now it's the colour that the wall's supposed to be. Go to hue saturation value, and take down saturation or move it up. Move the value down. And yeah, that is kind of how our wall ends up looking. So we're going to paint in some grunge on that soon. But before we do that, let's go ahead and do this one. So I'm going to just select that, Control L and link materials. So let's make that its own one. We're going to call this one here raw main pieces. Now of course it hasn't got a textured UV map, so we're going to call this one here default, like so. Going to add a new one, call this one here texture. Make sure those are linked up, okay? So this one here, we're going to duplicate this, wall, main, pieces, grunge, and the image is going to change from that wall main grunge to wall main pieces grunge. It should be wall main pieces grunge. Should we know that? Yeah, there we go. That's it, changed to that one. And now with these selected, we just need to scale that one up. Quite big. And yeah, these pieces are kind of sandy, they're kind of metal. So if we perhaps decrease that hue up to that there, increase the saturation, decrease the brightness. Maybe I want this to be a very rusted color, but still look like it's covered in sand. That makes sense? Cool. Just take off that specularity for now. Yeah, so something like that. That looks fine. We could even come into the texture. We could just turn off that concrete texture for now. I'm going to go create a... Oh, actually, let's just duplicate that concrete texture. Call this one metal texture. Let's load up some metal. So if I come over to inorganic metal and let's see what I've got. Some of these aren't from CG Textures, by the way. I'll try and use ones that are from CG Textures. So we have quite a few variety here. These are from CG Textures. These free textures here, you can see I got them for free. I can't actually remember where I got them from though, so I won't use those ones. But you can get them from the internet. Actually, I think it was from a site called freetextures.com or something like that. So yeah, I might just see what this one looks like, because I like the look of it. That actually looks quite nice. It's not tileable, I see, but I'll just scale these up. Right up. And material settings, let's go. Just going to find somewhere that looks interesting, probably not green. And here we end up with something looking like that. Which is not bad actually. That's quite good for a quick cross texture. Let's see what else we got. Might just quickly pause the recording. I'll just have a quick look at what maps I've got in store for you. Alright, so I have gone in, I've just played with colours. I ended up actually just using the same concrete texture. I figured since it's all been blasted with the same sand, it's going to look pretty much like that. And yeah, that is fine. That will cut down on a lot of memory, which is always a good thing. Right, so now we get into some cool stuff. We're going to be painting in some grunge. So what I'm going to do is switch over to texture paint. Press T to bring up my toolbar. And you notice all of a sudden we get this really grainy look. That is our bump map being very over the top. On this one, good texture. The bump map, or the normals we have here, by the way, on a per object basis. So it doesn't matter on the texture, it's on a per object basis. So 0.2 seems a bit much. Actually, if I just go into material settings, decrease that. And yeah, that's alright like that. Kind of a bit speckly, but that will be okay in the actual preview. We get sort of like when we go into texture paint, we get this really high quality preview for painting, obviously. But we're going to be resizing these textures later and stuff, so it's not a big issue. So we'll main grunge. Go to your object data, make sure you're on your default one because you're painting on this, and we're going to paint on that layer. So we went over this briefly before, but basically you can just paint like this and it will paint. So texture, I'm going to go create a new texture. Just going to add it in over here. It's texture 01. I'm going to call this one here brush. Make sure it's unchecked. Choose image or movie and open up a brush. So I'm going to go textures. I've converted a whole bunch of my, I've converted I think maybe 15, 20 ABR files into images, and yeah, this is just what I got. So yeah, we got something like this. 1.6, I have no idea where you would get this particular one, but I'm sure you could create it in Photoshop or find it on the internet. Yeah, just use what you've got. Obviously I have a lot of variety. I should really organize these into folders. But yeah, there you go. Yeah, I'm going to put that one. So this one here, if we go show alpha, we can see it. And painting gives us this kind of effect. Just sort of like putting spacing between them and stuff. So yeah, we can just come down. Stroke, change that spacing down to probably like 5%, about 2. And play with these settings. I believe this one has an effect. Yeah, that one has an effect. Alright. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to paint over stuff. So we can just probably make this a bit smaller, such like that. And if I go to change this texture to a clouds, like this. Give it a color ramp. We can change that top one to a black, like so, and we can start painting in that at the moment. This up. Sort of play around with these settings and get something that you like for a brush. And yeah, it paints all like that. If you paint really hard, then yes, it paints really hard. Okay, so that is this one, and what we're going to do now is we're going to paint in some grunge. So you can see going outside, I can't paint there, it's not letting me. Yeah, I can paint straight in front of me. That is due to the settings down here in Project Paint. We turn off normal, and we can also turn off cull, which will basically mean we can paint from inside. If we go inside, zoom. Oh no, can't zoom that far. But there we go. So we can't paint there at the moment. We turn off cull. It still won't let us paint. Interesting. Alright, that's probably culling on my camera. So I'll ignore that for now. Alright, so let's use F, make that bigger. Shift F is the softness of it. Actually, probably a little too soft. Painting. It's really weird. It seems to be painting based on the. So I'm going to 0.01 to this. Alright, anyways, let's paint around like this. Occasionally it can be a bit finicky, the thing. Oh, that's one other thing to note, make sure occlude's on. Turn it off there just to check something, but yeah, occlude needs to be on. Occlude is what stops you painting through objects. Okay, so just painting over. It's not letting you paint, zoom out. Usually you don't have to do that, but for some reason today I am. Alright. If you find your ambient occlusion isn't strong enough, you can come in here as well and just paint on it. You should be able to paint over seams with ease. And yeah, painting those gaps. I'm going to paint, a couple of sections of the wall, and then I'll speed through and come back with a finished result, as I tend to do. So it might seem kind of weird to you why we've done an ambient occlusion pass and we're doing this. Ambient occlusion passes will basically give us a head start. It will already get everything for us, and we'll just come through and we're grunging it up. So if we forget to do a piece, it's still going to have ambient occlusion on it, because ambient occlusion is very present in real life. Add a bit of varying texture to the wall. Varying texture is very important. And yeah, I don't intend for them to get on top of the wall, so I'm not worried about that. Right, behind these things I'm going to make it rather dark. Yeah. Another tip for you, when painting in grunge maps like this, use black and white only. A black and white image you can save as a much smaller file size than you can a color image, and we can color it directly in Blender. Obviously if you want color on it, then yeah, you can go ahead and do that, but bear in mind it will use up more memory, and that's less memory you can spend on other things. Games is all about optimization, where you can spend your memory. If you find somewhere that you think deserves a lot more attention, such as a character's face, then yes, use extra detail on that, and take that detail away from something that doesn't need it. Alright, so we've got all this stuff coming around. Perhaps these are leaking down a little. Tablets are very helpful for painting this stuff. These get quite dark behind there. Up around here as well. Yeah, let's just... It's not being very helpful painting today. I'm sure I've never had problems with painting in Blender. Seems to be the way it goes with tutorials, I suppose. Everything goes great until you decide, hey, let's make a tutorial, and then everything decides not to work. Okay, so that's going on quite nicely now. I'm just going to change this one on the right over to a white, which will allow us to paint away. Oh, maybe it won't. This one. Yeah, white too. Should allow us to paint away. Change that to white. There we go. Alright. Yeah, so we can paint away this stuff. And especially like up on here, you can see this is very, very dark, and that's not what we want. Oh, we're not even on that object. We need to be on that object to paint it. So you paint away a few regions. Come in, be like, here maybe there's something that's brightened that piece up, and yeah, end up with some nice grungy looking stuff. So compare what we've done along here. Compare that to like over here where it doesn't have anything, and you can see a very good improvement. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to object mode. You can see how everything goes back to a sort of land texture for faster viewport interaction. Select this one, we'll go over to texture paint. Going to go into textures, make sure we have our grunge texture selected and our default UV map. If you have that one selected, when you paint, just like this, you'll notice it does that, and it goes really weird. Oh. So yeah, that's why we want to have default one selected, so we can just come along and just go paint over perfectly. That is amazing. By the way, if you can't control it with this, that's why I got confused before. The colors are often controlled by our texture settings on our brush. Check that. And yeah, usually it's controlled by that color ramp there. In this version I'm using, it seems to be controlled by this, which is unusual, but hey, I've learned to just accept that Blender can be weird sometimes. Alright, so painting over this. And just painting around. Not really going into any hardcore details or anything, because we only have a 1K texture. We're not going to get much detail unless we started duplicating them up. Say if these were all textured the same. And yeah, that is possible, by the way. There is ways to get some really nice looking textures with only minimal resolution texture maps. And that is something I'm hoping to cover in a more advanced tutorial sometime with 3D World. So we'll see how that one goes. Alright, so painting in the grunge map. Grunge gathers around the edges of objects and in dark places and shadows, which makes them look extra grungy. So yeah, if you're wondering why I'm like painting around objects and around these dark areas, that's just where grunge is known to gather, because it doesn't get cleaned. Well, of course this wall would never have been cleaned in its life, hence why I've chosen just to use a concrete texture rather than a metal. It's probably rusted but covered in dirt, so much dirt that it looks like dirt, if you know what I mean. Alright, so just briefly going over this. You might be like I was when I first started doing 3D, if you're new to 3D, and you might be watching this tutorial and pausing and then doing a bit and then pausing and doing a bit. When it comes to texturing and grunge, I would suggest not doing that. It's what I used to do, and I used to wonder why my grunge maps looks too clean, too CG. And the reason for it was when you're doing grunge, you don't really second guess things. Unless you make a mistake, you don't second guess. You come in, you go, oh, there's a line here, let's do that. If you come in and you press too hard and you're like, oh, that's not what I wanted, let's undo. Don't undo, change that to white and work it in. And you can see you get that nice result. So that's something that comes with time, is being able to just know where to put your grunge, where to do things. I admit I haven't been texturing for that long, because I'm a modeler rather than a texturer. So yeah, that's something that comes with time. But I mean, yeah, don't undo, don't be so precise that it looks weird. Try and just like work things back in. You see this line coming down here, it's just not my thing. Same with this one. I'm going to work that out. This one, oh, it looks like it's just it's touching on the map. So I might have to just ignore that one. Yeah, it is. Alright, that's something that I've done wrong in my UVs, is I've had those touch. It's not good, but it's done now. If this was for a production company, I would go back and I'd change it. But it's for a tutorial. I'll probably come in later and I'll fix these up, make them look nice. It's sort of, yeah, one of those things. So I'll do that later, because it's annoying me now. Alright, now these bits down here, they look weird, so we'll kind of come in and with the white brush and we're just going to work those out. Maybe increase that strength a bit, and we get a much faster thing like that. I'm not working them all the way out, I'm just doing a general pass. While I'm at it, I'll come up here and I'll see if I can paint out this thing, which may not let me do. No idea why it went completely black, but it did. And yeah, that's not going to let me paint it at all. Oh well, let's go back to where we're painting. And just quickly adding a bit more grunge around here, because they're actually touching the ground. I'd imagine they would have like oil leaked on them and all that. You can go into doing some little detailed oil drips and things. They look quite nice. Yeah, you can kind of see that Blender's texture painting tools are actually quite nice. I don't object to Blender's texture painting in Blender. It's much better than texture painting in Maya, if you've ever done that. I admit using Murray is still easier, but that program, that cost me $400 or something for that. So yeah, it's one of those things. Alright, coming in, just finishing this off. More grunge, dirt. Alright, and now you can see we have done these two sections, and they are looking really nice. And then if you compare that to other parts of the wall, if we zoom out and go back to, say, object mode, and look at that, compare those two over here, and you can see that there is a considerable difference in detail. Adding in those grunge passes really does help. What I'm going to do is, because this tutorial has gone on for an hour, because I wanted to get some information into you, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the recording. I'm going to come back and do the entire wall. And what I want you to do is do the entire wall as well. Do these turrets, do this thing up here, I'm just going to paint that in Photoshop because I can't seem to paint on it in Blender, and we will come back after that. Okay, I'll see you soon. Okay, and welcome back. What I've done here is I have textured the wall, and it's fairly simple. I didn't spend a lot of time on this. Obviously the more time you spend on it, the better it will look, but this is perfectly fine like this. You can see I can zoom in here, and that is fine. Of course, if we go into texture paint mode, we get those high resolution textures which look much nicer, but that's alright. Go back to object mode. So yeah, you can see I've textured these. I've textured the gun. It's probably the wrong shade. See, they're all adjustable, and they're all just black and white occlusion layers, which I use as a grunge map. Make that a little bit darker. And yeah, that is basically how we texture a wall in Blender. Now, one note, something that I forgot to mention earlier, is if I go in here and take a look at our texture map. Alright, so you can see how this looks here. Obviously it's really weirdly drawn, but that's perfectly fine. They all have a gap in between them. This is something that I was supposed to do on this one, but I forgot. So what you can do is you can go Control P, and then over here we have what's called a margin. If we set that to something like 0.02, or actually on this one here probably something like 0.002, we get this gap between them, and that is very important to stop bleed. Now I'm going to undo that, and bleed, you can see it over on one of these. Like there, you can see where the seam is showing through. You can see the seam. Now that there is usually no problem in Blender. Blender can handle seams very well, except when our bleed goes over the lines. So that's something to bear in mind. Something it's worth spending a bit, wasting a bit of that texture space just so that you don't get that bleed showing through. So I'm not going to go and change that now, but yeah, that's something you might like to change. Okay, so that is basically it. A couple of tips here. You can see over here on the turret, I haven't actually gone through and smoothed this out or anything, so you can see these pieces. They're also partly to do with those seams. I've made this kind of dark. I've kind of made it quite dark in there. Those are because when we sit from back down here, it's going to look very daunting, very old, rusted, and grungy. And we look up there and it's like, oh my gosh, there is a massive cannon up there. And from here, those lines just look like streaks, dripping oil or whatever. So that's why I left those in, because they're not going to be a negative effect at all. So this one here, probably not the best, but that's once again due to that bleed. Okay, so moving around the back, you can see I haven't done anything. I did a line around there because I was moving around and started texturing. I was like, oh wait a minute, I'm not even doing the back. So yeah, that's kind of like a comparison for you for what it looks like on the back compared to what it looks like on the front. Considerably different. So yeah, that's a beginner's way for texturing. There are some advanced methods. I'll perhaps go into some advanced methods in 3D World sometime. If you want to check some of those out, on my website there is some tutorials there, and also on blendernation.com as well, of how to texture using some advanced techniques such as using image planes to project your textures on. There's tutorials on importing brushes and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, let's check those out if you want to know a little bit more about texture painting. So I'm going to wrap this tutorial up now, and we are going to, in the next video, we're going to texture all our junk and the ground. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to texture our scrap piles. Now we have a few scrap piles here. What I've done to save time for myself and to speed up render times is I have got these all linked. So I've got this one, and this one. I just went Control L, Object Data. This one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. Oops. Right. Yeah. So those ones are all linked to this one, like that. And the reason for that is that I don't want to have to texture all these in the space of a tutorial. If you have time, texture every single one of them separately. It will look great, but it is not essential. A gamer won't really notice if they all look exactly the same, because he doesn't go up to this height, where you can obviously see that they're the same. Okay, so what we're going to do is grab this one here, or any of them, and tab into edit mode, and we are going to go to image, new, and I'm going to call this one here junk pile small grunge. Alright, so let's just go U over there, unwrap, and of course it's going to say object scale is not 1, will not go correctly, because I've scaled it evenly, as you can see up there. Wait, no, not there. Where is it? There, we've got a scale of about 12 on all of them. It's not going to matter. Alright, so you can see that that is about right. Like this. And I could probably scale this a little differently, because the UVs are going to get mapped unusually. But that's alright, just like that for now. I mean, you can go Smart UV Project and go Smart UV Project, go in area 1, that one there, 0.02, and do something like this, which would work fine, but you might see the seams. So I'm just going to go U and unwrap. Okay, so with that there done, I am not going to make an ambient occlusion map for this. I will be painting one, but I will not be baking one out as such. So I can go image, and actually let's remove that one, and I'm just going to go image, new image. I'm going to make this white, because I'm starting without a AO bake. We want to start with white, and in that way our grunge bake or our grunge layer will be much more effective. So this one here was called junk pile small grunge. Okay, and there we go. I'm just going to go image, save this image, and we're just going to call this one here junk pile small grunge. Save that. That's that one done. So I'm just going to call this one here default. Create a new UV map. Call this one here texture, as before. I'm getting pretty good at doing textures now, so not really worried. Alright, add in a new material, junk pile small textures, new texture, junk pile small grunge, image of movie, and choose that image, that one, set that to multiply, and we're going to add in a new one. I'm just going to call this junk, or junk texture would be better, because I have a texture of junk to put on here. So let's go and make sure this one here is on coordinates UV, set this to texture, and set this one here to UV default. Change that to multiply, and now come to open. I'm going to open up texture. I'm going to go into my resources, inorganic, scrap, and just wait for these to load. These are mostly from CG textures, which I think these are all from CG textures. And I'm going to use this one here, Scrapyard 009127H. The H stands for huge. You'll probably have a small one from CG textures if you don't have a subscription. If you don't have a subscription, you should get one because they're fantastic. But yeah, we are going to be resizing it, making it small later anyway. So open up this. Take a little while to load because this is a 10 megabyte file or something. Alright. So I just had to leave edit mode and enter it again to get that to show up. And maybe set this to like a normal value of 1.5. Specular, turn that specular intensity all the way down to like 0.01. And yeah, that's looking nice with grunge, or nice with trash. I do think it's the wrong way around though. So I'm going to rotate this until it looks roughly about right. Maybe scale that up. And yeah, that's like a massive pile of trash. Now remember, we can still come in and we can edit the color of this. Might notice that these might look a bit greener on your screens than mine, because I have my monitor set to a different color. So might sound a bit weird, but I've got weird eyes. So that's how it works. 1 minute, one monitor over the other side set to color correct. My recording monitor, unfortunately, is currently on a slightly different hue. I am hoping to get a new monitor at some stage, but yeah, that's why some things appear a little greener. I do fix them eventually. So yeah, we have that there, looking quite nice. Might darken that up there. Something like that, and that will texture, of course, all of those. And we can then come in with our textures, grab our junk pile small grunge, make sure we've got the default texture map, UV map selected, come to texture paint, bring that up, and we just want to add some variation to it, mainly darkening around where it gets close to the ground. Try to avoid painting on an instance of the mesh, by the way, while you're painting. It can screw up Blender. So, not joking, it actually does cause a lot of issues sometimes. It's really annoying. But yeah, texture painting is quite new in Blender. It only come out a few months ago to be with all this new stuff. All these new like layer management down here and stuff like that. So by adding in the variation like this, you can see it doesn't look like it's, you know, these are all individual tiles anymore. It looks like a really large texture, which is great. That's what we want. Yeah, just going around, darkening things up a little. And yeah, we end up with something like that. And it looks great. And yeah, now what we're going to do, select that one, shift select this one, Control L materials. Of course this one needs to go U unwrap, call this one here default, create a new one, we'll call this one here texture, and now, what do you know, they are mapped correctly. So I'm just going to select the texture one, scale this up until the trash is about the right size. And you can see our grunge layer is not right, so I'm going to come in and we're going to go remove, press that 2 to give it its own user. Let's call this one here chunk pile large. Move that. And go image, we're going to save this image. And go image, new image. Go chunk pile large grunge. Okay, my mistake, I forgot to start with white. If you start with black, you'll just get a black image and you've got to paint white in instead of black. So, wrong button. Image, new image. And chunk pile large grunge. Okay, image, save as image, and just take that out. So we will come in and we'll optimize all these textures later on in this tutorial. So don't worry about having all these massive textures in here. We will optimize them, convert our PNGs to much smaller JPGs, and yeah, stuff like that. Okay, so let's create a new one. This one here is going to be called chunk pile large grunge. Image or movie. And chunk pile large grunge. You see the ones that we deleted that have 0 as the user. Just ignore them. When we close our file and open it back up, they will disappear. Okay, so UV default. The mode is multiply, and just save this, texture paint, and that throws it. There we go. Make sure I'm on the right one, on that default one, and we are on this chunk pile large grunge. Isn't letting me paint. It's painting on the wrong object. So what I'm going to do is, just to make sure that it doesn't paint on these, we're just going to go hide those. And chunk pile large grunge with large grunge. So here, large grunge. Texture paint. And it's still doing it. There we go. There we go. That's working now. And got some issues with painting here. as you can see, when we paint over, we get this weird looking stuff going on, which is due to normals, I believe. I could be wrong. I go display normals. They're all sticking out, which is good. Which is also bad because it means I have no idea why that's painting weird. But it seems to be fixed now. Gosh, Blender's being weird today, man. Now, the weirdest thing that happened before though is, oops, doing it again, is when I pause my recording to go record stuff, like, you know, just do things as I should. Save you guys watching me sit there and paint for a while. Blender worked perfectly. So I'm assuming there is a bug with Blender working with Camtasia Studio, which is my recording software I use. So yeah, that's the only reason I can think of why things aren't working for me. So they should be working well for you. Go object mode, see how that looks. It's looking quite nice. Remember, this is at a large distance. So yeah, I can probably just turn speed clarity off on these ones, which means bump mapping won't have any effect at all. And unhide, bring these ones back. Let's turn the bump up on these. Oh, that's our wrong one. Junk texture, this one. Something like this, yeah. Alright, so that's what our scene is looking like so far. So we're going to save this. And now we're going to do something else. We're going to texture the ground. So that's fun. Let's tab into edit mode on this one. Let's go U. Smart UV project, 66, hello. As we get this awesome looking thing. A, Control P, pack this in. Alright, now what we're going to do is we're going to scale this up to here. And the reason for that is we don't need any texture being applied all around here. We only want it in the middle. So that is our UV map. I'm going to come into that, call that one there, default, and of course create another one which we'll call texture. Getting really good at UV wrapping, aren't we? Everyone at my course always complains about how horrible UV unwrapping is, and it's actually crazy. I mean, it's really easy when you use Smart UV Project, but working with UVs is actually really fun, in my personal opinion. Okay, so let's just go create a new texture. This one here is going to be 1024 by 1024. That's probably the smallest you want it. Well, you don't really want it much bigger than that either, so I'm going to say use that size. This is going to be ground grunge. Notice how I always call them grunge, not AO, because I never really use them for AO. Same, fake ambient occlusion. Can bake out and look really cool. There you go, we can see our entire environment there. Can you see that is the region where our area is? So we can probably move this across and up and scale it up, and I'm just going to see how this looks. yeah, nice. Maybe move it down a fraction. About there, in a fraction, take that out. What I'm doing is trying to get as much of this area in here to be useful. So you can see I've got right down to there, all that to here. That's all the ambient occlusion we need. And that allows us to actually have some detail in there while still having a 1K texture, which is fantastic. So yeah, what we're going to do is create a new material. I'm just going to call this ground. You don't really need a fancy name for that. Come over to the texture tab, add new texture, call this one here ground grunge, image or movie. This one here is going to be going to open, and nope, I want to come and select ground grunge and go UV, so default, save this. Okay, so I just had a quick phone call. So what we've got here is we have our ambient occlusion map all done, and it actually looks quite nice. So let's come around and probably just zoom in to one of these just to see. And yeah, that's about what an ambient occlusion map should be. But you will notice all of these things everywhere. Now usually what I do is I come in and go to my texture settings and make sure we're on the right texture. We have this image mapping extension and all these crop settings and stuff, and we can adjust these to do basically what we want and repeat and stuff, but unfortunately they don't work in the game engine. So clip is the one that will clip it to this area and it won't do anything outside of it. It does work, but not in this tutorial that I'm giving you. This is kind of like an introduction to game environments and stuff. If I do an advanced one, I'll be showing you guys how to actually patch Blender, how to use some Python coding and get this working in the game engine. But yeah, that's not something we'll be covering at the moment. So just sort of like little tips and tricks that we pick up over the years and stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go Control up and show you a good workaround. I'm going to select all of these. Then actually I'll go to face and go Control I, and what we want to do is we want to go to live one here, wrong button, alright, go to live and then select those again. And go Control I, select these, and make sure I'm in face mode. So I can go select those, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to move those, scale them again. And I have just noticed that I'm missing a whole row along here and here. I'm missing this row. And these ones. And these ones up top as well. So let's just put them there. And now we look at this. And we can see we have our ambient occlusion around here. It's working all sweet. and we have no ambient occlusion anywhere else, which is even better. Okay, so yeah, that's how you do it. If you were wondering how I managed to scale them down, it's basically this button. If I select that, I scale like this, it will adjust all around it. If I click this one, it will synchronize these two, so I can just select one, I can just move it, and yeah, it basically makes every face separate. So that's how that one works. So what I'm going to do now is going to go and grab this one, image or movie, and we're going to go and type in sand texture. So we're going to use the sand texture. Make sure we've got this set to our UV texture. Open textures, and let's go to static, organic, ground, and I think it's in dirt, sand, soil, beach. I believe this is the one. Yeah, that's the one. Alright, so soil beach 00922L. So you can get that from CG textures. Alright, so let's open that and we get this, which looks pretty cool, but it's way too big at the moment. We tab into edit mode, go into vertex groups, this one, like that. Going to scale it, keep scaling it, and make it look like it fits. So if I just zoom into over here, let's find something like a barrel or something, and just scale it and make it look like it fits. Like that. Maybe give it a bit of bump. Normal, not that much. Edit mode. Maybe 0.1. Kind of notice that it's going like under this, under my wall. I don't want that. Let's go these ones. Just making sure that it's an acceptable height for the wall. We won't bake out the ambient occlusion map again, so yeah, so that was SZ0. Scale them to 0, and then just drag it up. And we'll drag these up as well. Okay. Oh, that one out. This one up. There's no point having geometry underneath the ground. It's not going to be very effective there at all. Sorry, doing that, put all my geometry under the ground. Yeah, so that's cool like that. And notice it's really shiny now. And ground is not shiny. Ground has like a hardness value of like maybe 10 or 12, and a specular of maybe 0.05. And it's going to make it really shiny. You know. That is intense. Quite reflective, even with 0 specularity. I'm just going to leave normal off. And yeah, that'll be fine like that. Maybe I'll turn it on later. So yeah, what we do now is we color this as usual. Make sure we've got this set to multiply. Grunge set to multiply. This one, which maybe a ready color. And yeah, about there would be sweet. Perhaps. Yeah, so if you look up from here, you can kind of see where our area is. But yeah, that's kind of like a guide. Don't paint outside this area. So what we're going to do is we're going to paint in some details. Well, not details, paint in some grunge. So let's go into texture paint. Make sure I've got the right one selected. So we're going to be on the ground grunge. Going to be on the default texture layout. Make sure we can paint, and we can. Cool. So I'm going to come over with the soften brush. I'm just going to soften up some of these pieces because I'm too lazy to open up Photoshop. Shortcuts are great. Good thing about 3D is you should learn how to use shortcuts. They really do help. Alright. It's actually not doing a bad job. Half expecting this to look really weird. Okay. So let's come in, make this black. And of course the draw brush. And just paint in some occlusion basically. Bits around here. My floating block again. Bring that up. And yeah, just basically paint around the edges here. You can go into a bit more detail. This tutorial's dragging on for quite a while, so try and keep this brief. Yeah, it's coming through. And a bit of a darkening around these pieces of trash. And keep going around. Make it look like it's not brush strokes, if you can. And if you can, spend a bit more time on it than I am. So yeah. I'm expecting some fantastic looking game renders to come out. Probably the best part of making tutorials is I get to see all the awesome stuff that people create based on the tutorials I make. So yeah, it's awesome. So yeah, keep them coming out. So if you plan to have these things move, don't paint under them. You want that to be dynamic. Otherwise, they'll move and the shadow won't. Okay, so yeah, something like that. Go back into object mode, like so. What I'm going to do is I'm now going to go probably over to the wall, and I want to match these colors. I'm going to select this, just take that, it's actually way too dark, brighten this up, drag it around, like that. It'll be nice and red and orangey and vibrant. And yes, sitting from here, you can kind of see it looking like that. I mean, it's probably not that saturated. We want to match the wall, but also look normal. So you can see over here, like he use alright, let's go take a color such as this. He's got it quite a lot brighter. And this down. And yeah, that is looking cool. So that is how you texture a ground. And as I said over in the texture settings, you can set this extension to clip. There's like a little workaround. You can actually download the file off the internet somewhere. I found it a while ago, and you can rebuild Blender with this file. And there's also a way to do it with Python, which I can't remember off the top of my head, which is why I'm kind of avoiding it. Shouldn't have told you that. So yeah, you can come in and do a lot of work with Python, logic bricks and stuff, and you can alter so many things. So yeah, changing that to clip is very important when you're working with large scale environments or interior environments more so, because you stick decals and stuff everywhere. But yeah, this here is quite nice. This works well for basically our game. We look like over this way, with the exception of those pieces, which we're going to do soon. It's looking pretty darn good. So yeah, let's come back in the next video. Okay, so what we're going to do now is come in and texture all of our props. So you're seeing that I have gone and added in a bit more detail here. I've changed the color scheme slightly. So we now have different color browns over here, and I've got these sort of granite colored rocks over here. And yeah, that's about what it should look like. I haven't spent a lot of time here. These rocks use the exact same concrete texture from over here, except I've used vertex colors, or to be more specific, just the diffuse colors. Vertex colors are over here, which I think I discussed earlier. I don't think I've actually shown you guys how to use vertex colors yet, but yeah, perhaps we'll find a use for it later. It's just kind of like painting on a per vertex basis, and it doesn't require any textures. So yeah, let's come in and texture some props. And I apologize for this Control Shift Alt things that are popping up. That's something to do with my pen deciding it's going to be silly and do all these buttons. It's acting like it's not a Wacom. That's a better way of saying it. Alright. So yeah, we're going to start with this one here. So as you can see, I've just isolated the object we're texturing and the Hema lamp. Now the Hema lamp will just provide some lighting. If we got rid of that, Actually, it's not hiding. If we deleted it, we wouldn't be able to see this in textured view. So let's go new material. I'm going to call this one here iron sheet. Let's go into edit mode. Let's go image, new image. Let's change this down to like a 512 for now. We will likely resize that down to a 256 a little bit at the end of this video. At the end of this video, we're going to go through and optimize our textures. So this one here is going to be iron sheet grunge. The color is going to be white because we're not making a AO map for this. Over in the texture settings, let's add in that texture. Iron sheet grunge. Image or movie. Select that iron sheet. It's going to be set to be UV and use default. Default glows red because it doesn't exist yet, so we just rename this to default. And yeah, let's go unwrap. Done. Just going to go save this image, and we're just going to go into textures, maps, and iron sheet grunge. You can see I've already saved it before, and then Camtasia crashed. So yeah, there is our default one. And another one, this one here is going to be called texture. It's important to name them all the same. You know, we've got default for our regular ones, that's anything that's UV mapped to the bounding square, and texture is anything that's used specifically for tileable textures. So yeah, let's go over here. Set this one here to be blend to multiply. Create a new one. This one here I'm going to be calling rust texture. And this one here is also going to be set to multiply coordinate, so UV, set that to texture. And we need to open up a rusted texture. So if I come onto my textures directory, and the metal I will have rusted. And you won't have these, or you won't have many of them, but they are all available free online. I occasionally buy some premium textures, like you can buy these, which is a 3D map that comes with all of the bump and stuff, but you don't need them. I bought a whole bunch a while ago because I thought it would make my stuff instantly look awesome. And yeah, it's just time of painting is really what makes your stuff look great. I use CG textures for a lot of my stuff. So yeah, rust mix. This one here looks quite nice. I'm not sure if this is tileable. I know this one here is tileable, but I want one that's got some paint flecks on it and rust. Let's open up this one. So in and out of edit mode. Let's scale this one down. And make sure that specular is off so we can see it. So you can see this is not a tileable image. It's fine though. Yeah. Ensure that looks alright. Much rather have a tiled image for this. I'm sure I have some around somewhere. Good thing about these textures, you can just pick and choose later on if you want. It's not a set in stone thing. Just come in, go to painted. I'll try to avoid using any premium ones. I think I might have to use a, I have to stick to this one here now. Seems the best one for it. What I will do though is I will open up Photoshop and I'm going to turn this into a seamless image. You can use Pixplant. If you've got Pixplant, that is great. It's quite a cheap program and can do it really well. I'm going to File, Open, just bring it up on my other monitor, so just hold on for a second. Alright, so let's open up this. I'm just going to close this one. Just show someone how to do bump maps. Alright, so this is our. There we go. Alright, so this is my image. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go Filter, and I don't currently have Pixplant installed in CS6, which is great because then I can show you this other method where we go to Distort, Share, and drag it across like that. One. And we get this line coming down the middle. And we can just come through with this piece here, like that. And I will go into Select, Modify, Feather by about 20 pixels. And that will just feather the edges slightly. And if we just come and hit Delete, we can use Content Aware. That will recalculate this stuff in the middle, and it will create this like blended piece. As you can see, it's not fantastic, it's a little bit blurred, and that is perfectly fine. It's not really going to matter. So let's go Image Rotation, 90 degrees, Filter, Share, and let's just zoom out a little. Do it again. Delete. I forgot to do the feather. Sometimes it works without doing feather, but yeah, so that's fine like that. Sometimes it gets it. You can kind of see these lines that just come down each side, and feather kind of just helps those out a little. Image rotation 90 degrees counterclockwise. So this is our new image. It's not perfect by any means. You can kind of see where the lines have come through if you look closely. But if you want to fix that up a little, grab the lasso and you can just go down like this portion, hit Delete, Enter, and it'll kind of like recalculate these portions. And so that's just making it look really square now. You can, with your Content Aware, you can go and choose the point where it's going to be. This is something that is exclusive to CS6. They don't have it in CS5, but there you go. It's I mean, it basically what it does is it samples another area. So we'd come in, if we wanted this area over here, we could sample it and have that in. A cheap way of doing it is you can grab a point like perhaps this and Control C, Control V, and just bring that into about over here. Go Control E, and then we'd grab that lasso and would go, actually wrong side, would come around it like this, and would go inside it like this, and go delete content aware, and it kind of blends those together, and you get that kind of thing. That's a cheap way of doing it. So I'm going to leave it with those square portions. That's fine like that. Just delete that. And yeah, let's go image size. By the way, this is Rust Mix 0077_M, and I'm going to make this one here a probably go 512. Actually, we're going to use this on a few objects, so we can go 1224 by 764. That should keep us a fair amount of detail. We probably don't even need that much. Image size 512, and yeah, that's fine like that. I mean, really, how close are you going to be standing to these things? File, save for web, JPEG, and now this is where we can compress our images. We're doing this on a few more images later, but you can see 341 kilobytes is fine, but you can actually come down to a medium quality, and it is pretty much, you can't really see the difference. So maximum looks like this, medium looks like that, low is when you can start to see the difference. But that's why I generally use medium for our game engine textures, and we now have a 54 kilobyte image. So let's go to let's go into my folder, and it will be in tiles. That's where we want to put this, and I'm going to call this one here, oops, Rust tile, and that is our Rust tile. Save. Yeah, let's minimize that. Let's come over to our maps, go up one, go to tiles, grab that Rust tile, and we can put that in place there. And you can see that's fine. You can resize it down if you want more or less. Something that looks reasonable. Maybe thin it out a little, just like that. There's that kind of thing going on. Alright, so yeah, that is fine like this. So yeah, that's been quarter of an hour of how to do a texture. So let's go over to this one here, select our default one, object mode, texture paint, bring that a bit smaller, and this is where we come in and we sort of blend these out. Probably notice I don't have pressure sensitivity on my tablet at the moment. Really annoying, but there you go. That's Windows for you. Don't usually recommend painting on an angle like this, but it allows me to see the grooves. And sort of just like paint within them. It just makes it a little obvious that there is grooves here. Find you've gone too far on one, you can paint it back. Got a little bit of dirt around it and stuff. That's fine. Let's basically make it look like it's a dirty plank. And we'll come in and we'll just go and adjust the textures slightly. So I want them to be a little more yellow. Not that saturated. A little more like they belong in the scene. So very vibrant like that. Take down rust. If I turn down that color a little, we get basically it looks like there's a little bit of coating over the top of it. We can choose that to affect the normal as well. Like this, and for our material, choose that white kind of sandy glow, I suppose you'd call it. Yeah, something like that. Alright. So back to painting our orange sheet. Go in with the soften brush. Just blur that out a little. Back to object mode and go to my slash. That will eventually bring back our scene. Alright. Okay, so that is our little rusted panel. So we can save that at this point. And let's adjust these colors a little just to fit in the scene a little more. That's our grunge. This one. Yeah, so I'm happy with that. And as you can see, it's updated every single one in our scene because I've used link duplicates. Let's click one all the way over here, just compare them. And yeah, something we just quickly painted right then, that is looking pretty good. So what we're going to do now is our barrels. Let's find a barrel and select that, find that slash, zoom in, go tab into edit mode, and just go save that image, make sure that's saved, and go image, new image, barrel grunge. Once again, 512 by 512, white. Okay. and that is going to be our default UV. Is going to be U Smart UV project. See what that looks like. The cylinder projection. Oh, that looks horrible. And yeah. Okay, so this isn't looking very well with automatic mapping. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to map out some seams. Actually, it looks like I've already mapped some seams. I've got one going down the side and one over there. That makes sense. So just average that out, pack it in. Sure, let's see right. That doesn't look like it's using that UV map at all very well. So yeah, that's looking a little better. Light map pack, by the way, and maps every single face individually. So it's not going to work very well, I don't think. I'm going to try it. So if we go to a few materials in here now, what I want is an iron sheet. And we need to create a new UV map called, this one here is going to be called texture. And let's go ahead and press that little 2, and we're going to call this one here barrel. Here is going to be barrel grunge. Grunge. And yeah, alright, so you can see right now that this is what Light Map Pack does. It gives us these weird looking seams where everything is separated. So that's why unwrap is best. And to be honest, I expected unwrap to look horrible. But it doesn't look that bad. I do notice, however, that I've got this quad right here. This one, which is not shaped very well. You can see it's kind of cutting it off down there and stuff. So if I hit Control T, we can triangulate that, and that will fix that problem. And yeah, it looks like the only one. The bump is way too strong on this. If I go back to that rust texture and change it down to like a point. Let me click on you. 0.025. That's better. So yeah, to be honest, that is mapped not too badly. So, although, yeah, so that's fine like that. So you can see our default one is going to be using these horrible UVs, but we're painting over it, so that should be fine, and that will use our space really well. Whereas texture is using a just a standard map, so it's not going to use up any more memory by having these spaced out UVs, which can probably scale up a bit. And you can move pieces around individually should you need to. Alright, so that is my barrel. I'm just going to go Alt R on this for now. I'll rotate it back in a minute. But what I want to do is go to my barrel grunge, my default UV layout. Just quickly save it. Important to save often, in case Camtasia crashes your computer. So there we go. Come in and we're going to paint in some grunge. So I'm painting this quite heavily around the bottom here. It's being a barrel that has It's going to be quite grungy, quite dirty. Put extra grunge where you can see seams, or you can actually just come in and fix your seams like up here. And you can see we're not having any troubles with our light matte packed UVs, which end up looking like this, which definitely is the best use of space. I wouldn't recommend it if you wanted to paint on this in Photoshop later, because you're going to have no idea what the UVs are doing, which bit goes where kind of thing. But yeah, so let's make it smaller. What I'm going to do is come around this piece, bring that out. I just painted on the wrong part. Right, so I want to paint on this. Like that. And that streak in there actually looks quite nice. I'm going to leave it in there. Alright. Yeah, actually, those streaks look quite cool. I was expecting that would look horrible. Okay, so painting around here. We have another face here which needs to be tessellated. Cool. Yeah, so this is a grungy barrel. And you see that didn't take me long to make at all. I'm going to go back to object mode. We can go out of isolated view. And let's just zoom in and rotate this back to place. Just like so. Right, and yeah, that kind of fits in the scene quite nicely. Okay, so you can kind of see where we're going with all this. There's not a lot to do. We do need to make sure we go save this image and save this one here as barrel grunge. Save that. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in and texture all of these pieces. There's a few separate pieces here. Instead of, once again, instead of showing you how to do each piece individually, I'm just going to pause the recording, see if I can sort out my tablet, and finish doing all this, and then I'll come back and I'll show you how to make all your files nice and small. Okay, so I have gone ahead and textured the other 3 or 4 items in the scene. Namely, we had these pylons, which seem to have lost their texture for some reason. Let's go to pylon. And there we go. For some reason that's gone black, and I don't think I had saved it. Sources on grunge. No, I didn't save it. Alright, so I'm going to repaint that one in a sec. There you go, you get to see me repaint a pylon. Alright, so I've come in, I've done these small beams in here, done the large ones, done these ones, actually those ones before. Now there's a few other objects in here, like I've got a couple of cinder blocks. Those ones are just that concrete texture. There is no grunge map on them. Or these tires are also that concrete texture. Notice how different they look. It's just changing the color and the material settings that one there. I just made it kind of like a dark brown. And yeah, that is basically it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to repaint this one for you. On grunge, what I'm going to do is jump into that paint mode there. Occasionally Blender decides to reset colors to black. This is probably the third time it's happened during this tutorial series. Yeah, not a whole lot we can do about it. Image, save as image. Make sure you save them. I always forget to save my images and then they get deleted and stuff, and it's very annoying. Okay, so let's go into texture paint. Make sure we're on the correct layer, pile on, go black, and I just came around the bottom here and darkened it up. These are from a distance mostly, so it doesn't need to be too specific, but you need to be able to see the difference in shading from a distance. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm going for here. And maybe a bit of a ambient occlusion, just quick stuff. Could probably have actually baked an ambient occlusion layer onto these. That doesn't matter. Alright. Project mode, image, save image. And I'm just going to make sure I've saved the other ones too, which is namely my rocks grunge. That is saved, yep. We have ones with L next to them, by the way, are linked ones, which are for those vehicles we imported earlier. Tire, I can get rid of that tire because I didn't use it. We have being large and being small. Being small is not saved. Saves image. Beam small grunge. Okay. So that is effectively a completed game ready environment. All we've got to do now is the lighting. I've got to compress those textures, which I'm going to show you in a second. So after this we'll be doing the lighting, we'll be doing some just some effects such as depth of field and some mist. Mist, by the way, it's really easy to do. I can show you right now even. It is in Blender game in our world settings and then mist. Poof, misty, and that's kind of like what it looks like, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I quickly set in a horizontal color and some text and stuff just to see how it would look, and yeah, we'll go into how to set those settings later on. Alright, and yeah, that's all to go. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to save my scene. I'm going to open it up in this Windows Explorer. Just off scene. Okay, here we go. Alright, so these are the maps we've used. I can see junk pile, large, grunge. It's not actually there, so obviously I hadn't saved that one and it deleted it. That's alright. I'm just going to ignore that one for now. So let's go and right click, and we want to open these in Photoshop. So I'll just go File, Open, go to that folder, 3D World, 9, Textures, Maps, and select them all and hit Open. And that's all. Alright, so what we're going to do is image size. We want to resize this. This is wall main turret grunge. This one here can have a 512 or even a 256. Probably be fine. And we will just go save that. And we bring up our environment, select it, go into the texture settings of that material, wall turret grunge, reload that, and see, no, not sure if that's even reloaded. Right, so wall turret grunge. Alright, so loading that up, you can see it is a 256 by 256, and I couldn't even notice the difference there. So that is a good sign that our texture is resized efficiently. Alright, so back into Photoshop. We can close that one. We don't need that one now. Wall main pieces grunge, image size. This one here, I'm going to give this a go at 512. That should be alright at that size. Save it. Don't close it until you've reloaded it, by the way, because you might not like the result. Wall main pieces, reload, and yeah, that actually looks fine. So it looks grungy, effective, and yeah, I'm happy with that. Okay, so moving on. It's a good idea to keep like a backup of these files, by the way, if you're not sure on these grunge maps, so I can make these again very easily. But yeah, it's a good idea for you guys to do that. And we will be converting these to JPEG soon as well. So I probably actually should go open up those ones, which was wall main pieces and wall main turret. Not those. Right. So our turret, we're going to go File, Save for Web, and this is going to be medium 30. Saves at JPEG. Go up into our maps, and let's just create a new folder for now. This one here is going to be, let's call this game. Yeah, there we go. Alright, so we'll save that there. Alright, File, Save for Web. Save that into the game one. And this is going to take the size of our textures right down. Image, Save for Web. This is our wall main. This one here can definitely go down to 512. And that will take it down to 25 kilobytes. We could probably take that down to 256 even. About there. And save that in. That. Alright, our rocks grunge. Save for web. These ones, I'm going to give this a 128. Now these seem really small, but when it comes to the game, it's not going to be noticeable. I mean, yeah, that is getting mapped over a large area, but it's a grunge map. It's not. It's just going to be blurry. It's not supposed to be detailed. If you do a detailed map, you want a high resolution, you can definitely have more than 2 kilobytes per image. The way games are these days, it's not a big issue. Alright, so this one, File, Save for Web. This is my pylon grunge. Let's change this down to a 128 as well. File, Save for Web. This is a junk pile one. This one's really big, so we want to give that 256. And save that one. Ignore that large grunge. Alright, so the iron sheet, this one here, once again, will be a 128. Notice how these are all like 2 kilobyte files. We can actually merge these all into one single image if we wanted. Alright, so save for web. This one here is the ground. Now the ground is definitely a big one. We're going to be really close to this. We're actually walking on it, so I'm going to use a 512. So it's that one there and the wall are the only ones that I want to have a decent sized texture on them. File, save for web. Notice how some of these are rectangular, so I could fit more in. Instead of having a this one here, instead of having a 256 by 256, I can fit a 128 by 256 and still have the same amount of texture information in it. Alright, so save that one. So for web, this is the beam large, so 128. This is barrel for web. 120, oh, that's 125, 128. Quite small. Yeah, that's alright. Might take just on 256. Barrels get seen a lot, and games like those, beams and stuff, they will be on the side, they'll be around, but they're not generally as interactive as much with as barrels. If you see games, you'll generally notice barrels. They're around and you kick them around and stuff. So if they've got a good grunge map on them, that's good. And that was our rust mixed, and we already did that one. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up those textures we used. So if I go to my textures directory, I'll up over here for you. Static is inorganic and concrete there. I think it was this one. I'm just going to check which one we used. So in our concrete texture, we can say it was concrete there 01157H, which is a huge texture, literally. 1175H. Oh, that's it. There we go. This one. Go file, save for web, it'll give us a warning. Or no, maybe not. Now this one, I can have this as a 1024. I've cut down on all my other textures, all my grunge maps stuff, so I can have this one larger. Probably cut that down to 512 actually, just to be stingy, and have something like this. I'm going to see how well this looks. Yes, we go into tiles, and we go, call this one here, concrete tile, and that's all we've used is we'll use that rust tile and this concrete tile. And yeah, we minimize that and pull up our directory. So we can see if I select that to that, we have 13.4 megabytes compared to this one, which is 128 kilobytes. And our directory is about 10 megabytes for these two. That is now 86.4. So that is what you call optimization. So I'm going to change this one. We're going to go to tiles, concrete tile, open that, and there was not a significant difference there. So that's cool. Wall main pieces, open this one. I'm going to game, going to go wall main pieces grunge. This one is going to be wall main grunge. This one, wall main turret grunge. So yeah, iron sheet grunge. This one is barrel grunge. And we have beam small grunge. This one here, beam large grunge. There's a tie around here and a cinder block somewhere. Actually, you can know, tie and cinder block just use a concrete texture. We have a pylon. Pylon grunge, we're going to go open that. Pylon grunge, open that. And these ones as well, junk pile small grunge. Junk pile small grunge, open that. And rocks grunge. Rocks grunge. Okay, and that's all of it. So looking through the scene now, if I find my camera, should be able to fly around. I can get this plugged in. I think I plugged my microphone. Is that working? Yes, that's working. Okay, so we can go control up over here. Shift F. Alright, there we go. Now I can fly around with my 3D mouse. So yeah, just looking around the scene, you can see this is very decent resolution textures. We can go right in here. We can see the scratches, the detail. Obviously our bump's probably a bit large on this, but that's okay. We'll sort that out in the lighting tutorial. And yeah, that's on the ground. See, oh, there's one that we forgot. We forgot the sand, so I'm going to go do that one as well. And yeah, just coming around here, it's very nice amount of resolution while keeping the entire amount of textures less than 200 kilobytes for everything. Apart from these ones here are probably about 100 kilobytes each, the textures. And yeah, kind of see though a bit more resolution. These ones here, you're welcome to come and retexture these. I did this using Murray, so I used a rust brush rather than a rust texture to make those. So yeah, let's come in and we're going to do the ground quickly. So I forgot that one. Photoshop file open. These tile textures, by the way, will not be included in the resources for licensing reasons. But you can get them from CG Textures. Okay, so organic, ground, dirt, sand, and stuff at the bottom somewhere. Soil beach. This one. Image size. This one here, once again, we're going to be on it. So I want to have that about 512. So we can still see the detail. And this one here, save for web at 512, 22 kilobytes, that is fine. And I'm going to call this one here sand texture. Okay, so we're going to pull up Blender, select our ground plane, control up to bring this back. We don't need that anymore. Close that. Sand texture. Open up our tiles and open up that sand texture. Open, and if we go right down to the ground level again, we still have a very nice amount of detail, as you can see. So yeah, that is it. That is all we have for our modeling and texturing. Is all done. Next video we're going to come in the next stage and do our lighting, and we're going to be switching over to the harmony branch and using dynamic shadows and all this lovely stuff. So I'll see you then.